It is a pleasure and a huge, huge honor to be able to sit down with you like this tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and all of you.
Now, I hope you're not too modest about your accomplishments, because I feel we have to recount some of the highlights from your resume before we begin. Is that okay?
Yeah, it depends on which one you think are the highlights.
Oh, I don't know. 2 Academy Awards, 3 Emmy Awards. You've performed some of the best-known movie quotes and delivered some of our most beloved award show acceptance speeches. And from what I understand, when the wind is just right, you can fly. Was that a fair summary?
It was fine.
Okay. We'll get into more detail, but your new movie, Hello, My Name Is Doris, which is opening tomorrow, I've heard this said that this is, I think, the first movie that you have the solo leading role in about 20 years. Is that right? I mean...
I don't know. I haven't been counting. Only you guys have been counting, obviously.
I mean, clearly, you have been busy and you've done wonderful film work and TV work. But how is it that, I mean, you're not sitting around saying, I only hear pitches when they come from Steven Spielberg, or if they come with a paycheck of a certain size? I mean, is it a scenario where even when you become a celebrated and reliable talent, does the industry start to take you for granted at some point? Does that happen?
I don't think it's take you for granted. I wouldn't put it in terms of that. I mean, your career is always, I've been in the business for 53 years. So there've been, really hugely busy times, and then you transition, and you always have to be able to go with that transition and realize you're arriving into another stage in your life, and as an actor, to be able to explore that stage. And I've always gone where the work is. I've never been after wanting to do, if I'm not starring in a film, I don't want to work. That's just not what I feel. I want to do what work interests me. It doesn't matter if it's in television, or when I've been lucky enough to do things on stage, or when they're in films and they're not leading roles. That's fine too. I really don't want to do things that you're in the midst of doing going, why did I agree to do this? What on earth was I thinking? That's a painful place to be. Right, so
right. That's never happened to you, though, right?
Oh.
Now, I'd like to give the audience just a sampling of Hello, My Name Is Doris. We have a few clips that we'll show throughout the program, and we'll talk more about it as well. But I wonder, just before we show this first clip, because I think this character is so unique and so wonderful, if you could just tell us a little bit about her and the person that we're going to see.
Well, it is a coming of age of a person of age. Which is something I think we're always doing, coming of age, no matter how old you are. This person has been shut off from the world. She took care of her mother most of her life, and I think she's got personality issues, some like borderline mental health issues. And I think her mother was probably a very domineering personality, and Doris was a retiring one, so all of her emotions went inward, and she lives in a fantasy world and dresses from old clothes she finds on the streets, borderline hoarding issues that we really thought came mostly from the mother, but together they were creating this little world that Doris never went out of very much. She had a job, but it was a job that she was ignored, and as it changed hands, the company she worked for, into a younger and younger firm, she got shoved in the back and shoved in the back. And I think she was fine with being in the back. I'll be in my own little private bubble and dress for myself and live in a fantasy place. And then something happens when her mother passes away, and one little moment something happens and it begins to change her life. And it is the challenge we all have. Will we move forward in our lives, or will we hang on to what we were because it's more comfortable to accept what we were, hang on to that, rather than finding out what we're about to become.
Right. So we're going to get just a little bit of a taste of the film and an important moment in sort of the early part of the story of Doris. So we'll show that clip, and then we'll talk a little more.
Okay.
Hey, Doris. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for the coffee earlier. Also, sorry if I was rude. Anne's been on me about the December catalog since I got here. It's been kind of a thing.
No, it's okay. I understand.
Cool. All right. Is that a Baby Goy on the Nuclear Winter CD?
Yes?
That's my favorite band.
You're kidding.
I wouldn't have thought that you'd be into electronic music.
Oh, I am. I'm a real music person. I like, electronic, doo-wop, and show tunes.
You're a baller, Doris. Straight up.
Thank you.
Pound it. No, pound it. Put your fist next to mine. Yeah. Explode it. Make it rain. Bye.
Is that, as far as you know, your first on-screen fist bump?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. That's, of course, that's the wonderful Max Greenfield, who
Yes.
plays your coworker, and who
Yes.
he becomes a pretty important figure in
He
Doris's
becomes
life.
really the bait
Yes.
that draws her out of this cave she's been in all of her life. She sees him shortly after her mother's passed away, and he's kind to her, and it's him she wants. She's decided, that's it for me, folks. And it's not quite like a stalker or anything, as much as it is someone who so desperately wants to feel what life is about. And she just thrusts herself in his direction. And the friendship that comes out of it, and how he benefits from their friendship as well, is kind of the basis of understanding certainly what Doris's journey is.
Yeah, it's not that the movie treats their relationship as somehow implausible or wrong. I mean, they really do find a unique connection, and it's treated as something that is, very, very plausible and completely real and very sweet.
Yeah, it's people that connect with each other. Everybody, the way that this movie, or certainly the character relates to everybody, is that I think everybody feels isolated and alone at their core. Even if you're lucky enough to have a soulmate, a partner, you feel so left out of something going on in the world. And I think it's sort of hardwired in us, certainly in this society, to feel so left out, so alone and isolated, and to connect with a human being. Somebody who hears you, who sees you, who wants to know what does that feel like, feels so incredibly enriching. And that's what they do. They listen to each other when no one else takes the time.
Right. We should definitely talk more about the film, and we'll show some additional clips a little bit later in the program. But since we are so lucky to have you here, I just have to ask you about just the extraordinary career trajectory that you have had. And I wonder if we could just even start about, what were you like before you became America's sweetheart, when you were just a little itty-bitty Sally Field in Pasadena, wondering, what life was going to be like? What were you like before you started working professionally?
Well, I was a child.
Right. I see.
I did childish things when I was a child. I just was I was a painfully shy little kid who didn't want to go to school because I didn't want all those strangers around me. I don't know that I ever really fully got socialized, because I think my mother wasn't all that socialized herself. I now don't think I ever had a play date ever. I am beginning to want one. So I didn't like the whole, like, why am I here with all these weird people? And I want to go home, and I want to go home right this instant. And then when I was I grew up in a show business family, so I have to say that. I grew up in a working class show business family, so there was nothing glamorous about it. Zero. It's a tough, tough life. My stepfather was a stuntman / actor, and a much better stuntman than the / actor. Even though he tried, he did a lot of things. And my mother was an actress, and she did episodic television. So she'd have a job and do an episode of Perry Mason, and then wouldn't work for 3 or 4 months, and then she'd have a job on Bonanza, and then wouldn't work till Lord knows when. And it's a really difficult existence.
Right. What made you want to follow them, knowing
Well,
that?
I think that I had an early language with my mother. She had been fortunate enough to be put under contract when she was very, very young, during the war, actually, when someone thought she was pretty, and she was put under contract to Paramount, and she was like 23. And at that time, when you were put under contract, you studied, which was fabulous. You had movement lessons. They tried to get you to speak like the latest star, whomever it was, Jennifer Jones or whomever. And but the blessed thing was she got to study acting with Charles Laughton, with the great, brilliant Charles Laughton. And she studied acting with him, and he put her as a member of his small company of players, where they did Chekhov and Ibsen around in little theaters around Hollywood. It was called the Charles Laughton Players or something. And I remember this in my head, even though I couldn't possibly remember it. But I have the little books where she was studying the cherry orchard and playing the maid and underlining the lines, and it was what really stayed with her all of her life, the love of that craft and of the words and everything. And so I had that early somehow vision that this is what delighted her so deeply. And when I found a stage when they had those things in middle school called the theater arts department, they had any kind of arts for kids that needed to have some sort of expression outside of mathematics and language. I found this place, a stage, and it really saved me in a very big way. And I stayed on the stage from 7th grade till I graduated in the 12th grade.
Wow. Did you have a